Now, very happy to continue taking talks about business confidence, about where you see the government should be stimulating the economy. But we'll come back to that because I just wanted to raise the issue of the right to die bill, David Seymour's bill, which looks set to become law. And I've always had very strong feelings about the fact that I should be able to choose to end my life if I feel that I'm getting no purpose, no value, no meaning, and what's more, people aren't getting any kind of value from me. But last Friday, I was invited along with our newsreader, Neva Ritamanu, to the Geneva Healthcare Ball for people with disabilities. And it was quite extraordinary. I was expecting a level of disability, but, there were a lot of people who attended the ball who were actually in beds, not just wheelchairs, but beds. There were people with physical disability, people with mental disability, intellectual disability. Quite extreme. These were people who needed 24/7 care. And I have to say it was quite confronting to meet so many people with that level of need, but spending time in their company and spending time with the carers of these people, these young and old, was extraordinary. And it made me realise that what I might see as having a quality of life, or in my situation right now, what I might see as giving value, is not the same as if you are born with a disability or if something happens to you and all of a sudden your previous thinking gets turned upside down along with your life, really. And to talk about what can be offered to people who the able-bodied might see as having a limited quality of life is Geneva Healthcare Chief Executive Ronnie Mannion and Geneva Director Josephine Gagan, who are both on the same line, I believe. Hi, Ronnie.
Hi there, how are you?
Very, very well, thank you. Look, I just wanted to talk to you about what you do within the community and what concerns you might have about this bill.
Sure. So Geneva Healthcare looks after people with injuries or disabilities or aged care people around New Zealand. Some of them are very, very severely disabled, and we basically just want them to live the best life they can in a safe, clinical community, forum. Yeah. So our stance on the bill is that we do support the bill in concept. We believe it's important that we remove any preconceived ideas about what this means for people. And it has caused enormous debate around New Zealand and internationally. And I think Josephine's also got some important things she'd like to note on that as well.
Absolutely.
Hi, Kerry.
Hi, Josephine.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, I think, what you were talking about in terms of ensuring people's dignity and making sure that people have full consent, because there are some, I think, quite preconceived ideas, as Ronnie had talked about, in terms of what does quality of life really mean. And you probably saw on Friday night people really living their best life and leading a very similar life, in fact, to you and I. We danced the night away, we sang, and, there is the ability to do that, so that making sure people are fully aware of what the options are and that choice and freedom for individuals, I think, needs to be at the forefront of any decisions that we're making.
Yes, because I would have thought if I had lost the ability to communicate, if I needed 24/7 care for the most basic of bodily functions as well, that life really wouldn't be worth living. But I didn't see that.
No.
I saw people who were choosing to live.
Correct. And you saw so much love and joy, and happiness, really. It was very similar to a charity ball that you and I might attend. So, what we hope is that people understand the services that are out there, and that these services are about supporting you to live your best life, whatever that may be for you as an individual. And so there is that choice and freedom, and that you can live a really amazing life with a disability, and as you saw on Friday night, some really very severe disabilities.
Yeah, absolutely. But I imagined it being quite grim and institutional. It can't all be high kicking and sequins every day, can it?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, if you go, which Ronnie and I do, we go and visit people in the houses that they live. A lot of the time, they're not there. They're out in the community. You know, we have people who specialise in connecting our clients with activities in the community. So quite a lot of those people will be out and about doing the things that you and I do, but just with some help and support.
And I think just to add to that, Jo, these people have been, a lot of them have been born with these disabilities, so that's all they know. And so part of it is they're actually living the life they know, and our job is to make them feel like they have a home under our support, and let them have choice, and then support them the best we can with our resources to enable that. And they're also involved in running the service, so they get a say in policy and what we do, so they actually feel they are needed, and they are. They're a really important part of the company. Yeah.
Do you, from what you know of your clients, do you know of many who would have taken the option to quit? Does it sometimes just get too hard? Just the sheer hard work of...
Yeah, I think so. I think there's many that we all have our bad days.
Yep.
We all have days where we don't want to get out of bed. So how do these people feel?
Yeah.
And so we're there to support them. I think in the future, people may make different decisions if this bill is passed. But more so if they've lived a normal, able-bodied life, and then they may have a tragic accident. They may become paralysed from the neck down, but previously were running marathons or travelling overseas. So those people may have a different view. But it all comes down to consent and making sure that these people, are eligible for the bill, and that the bill is written so it doesn't take advantage of anyone who is vulnerable.
Yes, exactly, because of course at the moment none of your clients would be eligible unless they got a terminal illness, would they?
Correct. I mean, the bill, they may have an unbearable suffering that cannot be relieved in a manner that he or she considers tolerable. So it's our job to actually make sure that they are comfortable and that they are happy. A big part of it is making sure they're not lonely and that they feel they're included in society, and they're a big part of society. And I think, the Prime Minister attending, because she got a video from the clients, they were so excited to see her, and just to see their faces, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was lovely that she popped along. No media there, so she wasn't winning any brownie points from anybody.
Correct.
Yeah.
I believe she used to be a support worker, so she used to care for people with disabilities, so it was quite close to her heart.
I found it incredible that this was not a private institution. I thought that you would have to pay through the nose to get that level of care, but in fact, no.
It is funded by the Ministry of Health. And then a function like that, what Geneva Healthcare does is try and engage with some sponsors. So we were very lucky to have some corporate sponsors help support that. So
and some staff
the actual
with some
service
skills.
The service is funded by our Ministry of Health.
Is it difficult to get the carers that you need, the quality of the carers?
In some areas it is. However, a lot of the carers that were there, and a lot actually are so dedicated. They've worked for the company for many, many years. So we don't experience, an enormous turnover, but it's certainly in pockets, and at some times that there are some difficulties. But I think the company overall has been lucky to be able to attract some really good quality staff.
Absolutely, and we saw them in action on Friday night. Ronnie Mannion, Chief Executive, Geneva Healthcare, Josephine Gagan, Director of Geneva, thank you very much for your time and explaining a little bit more about what it is that you do. Newstalk ZB, it is 10:18. Hi, David.
Oh, good day, Kerry. It's David Seymour here. I was just listening to your discussion and my ears were burning.
I imagine they were. I know that I'm not trying to conflate the issue, but I'm just saying when I met the clients of Geneva, it gave me a totally fresh perspective on what a quality of life might look like.
Yeah, and I just wanted to call in and say I thought it was a really high-quality discussion. You know, I've known Jo Gagan for a while, and she runs a great operation that's helped some constituents of mine, actually.
Right.
And I thought the whole discussion said, yes, you know, there are people with disability and they get a lot of help, and they should probably get more. But that's a separate issue from the end-of-life choice bill.
Yes.
It's not a question of, you know, assisted dying being an alternative to high-quality care. Assisted dying is something for people who are terminal and at the end of their life. And I'm really glad that people are starting to recognise that, because we've had some opponents who have tried to conflate the issue. And it's been really, first of all, unfortunate from a policy discussion point of view, but also just quite, uncouth and really tactless from the point of view of dealing with disability issues.
Yes, I suppose, though, you know, some people have said, well, what's the point of having an end-of-life bill when you're terminal? You're going to have your life ended anyway. Wouldn't it be better to be able to benefit from the legislation if you found your life was intolerable, but you were in rude good health and looked to be, you know, to your heart and lungs that keep pumping forever?
Yeah, and that debate happened through the parliamentary process. So the bill, as initially introduced, said that if you have a grievous and irremediable medical condition and you're in an advanced state of irreversible decline in capability, this is effectively a copy of the Canadian law, then you could access the bill. And it's certainly true. There are people with things like Huntington's disease who are very strong supporters of the bill, and they've said, I've had a great life, I'm proud of what I've done, but I know what a Huntington's death looks like over the next year or so, and frankly, if it's all the same to you, I'm going to leave that bit out. The bill has been amended by Parliament so that you have to be terminal with a 6-month or less prognosis as determined by 2 doctors. So it's certainly true there's a group of people who support the bill, but believe it's been made too narrow. But that was what MPs have been prepared to vote for so far, and hopefully will continue voting for next Wednesday when it comes back for its final vote. I'd just say something about what's the point if you're terminal anyway. The Canadians did a big investigation prior to legalising, and one of the things that they ascertained from their research groups that went over to the Netherlands and Belgium is that the average person, they estimate, shortens their life by only 10 days. Now, some people would say, well, what's the point? Well, for people in that position, that can be an absolutely horrendous 10 days. Yeah. And it's about their right to say, well, look, I'm very proud of the life I've lived. I don't want my loved one's last memory of me to be an absolutely awful 10 days. And so people do get a lot of value out of having that power and control and choice. And that's why I think it's worth doing, even though it's been narrowed somewhat through the parliamentary process.
Some people see it as the beginning of a slippery slope as well. Opponents of the bill say, yes, it's all very well and good now, but it started off slightly broader. It's been narrowed through select committee. Over time, will it become more elastic to include people with conditions that we would find unbearable to live with?
Well, in order for that to happen, it would have to go back to Parliament and you'd have this whole debate again. My view is that members of Parliament, if they can avoid having an issue like this discussed, they will, and I suspect that it won't be debated again for a very long time, if ever. If we get to the stage where we have that debate, then who knows what they might decide. But I suspect that it will be very, very similar, if not identical to now, that people will have all the same concerns. They'll say, yep, we agree that it should be a choice, but we never want it to be something that becomes an option of last resort or an alternative to looking after and cherishing and caring for people. So, there's people that want to make that argument, but it's very hard to see how it would actually happen. Mm-hmm. And also we have the benefit that we can look at countries that have had these laws in place for 20 years now. And everyone that's looked at it, the Western Australian Parliament is going through this, the Victorians legalised earlier this year. The Supreme Court of Canada did an exhaustive investigation before they legalised. All of them have said, look, the slippery slope is an appealing argument. You can see why people would make it, because it's the easiest thing in the world to claim and impossible to disprove. Mm-hmm. And yet, in all the jurisdictions that have legalised, there's been no change. And when you look at what change would require in New Zealand, it's very difficult to see how people think a slippery slope would actually eventuate.
Nice to talk with you, David Seymour, ACT Party leader. Newstalk ZB, it's 10:27.